professional image as IBGR. And we're back for our last segment. You're listening to IBGR, the International Business Growth Radio Network. You need to go to the website, ibgr.network. That's ibgr.network. Open up show notes. So if you go all the way across, you see resources. Mouse over that. You see a pull-down menu. Go to show notes. Open it up. And today's show is show number 8 in a series. We're talking about business economics for a post-pandemic world. Show number 8, global and domestic economic update. And if you'll do that, that'll get you popped in. Now, if you're listening as a podcast, it may not be there because there's 2,400 pages of show notes in there. So right next to that, you'll see New Choice of Business Search. Put in Show 8, Global and Domestic Economic Update, and you will be happy with what you get. All right, now, we are in the 4th segment of today's show, the last one, or episode 32 if you're listening to this strictly as a podcast. And what we're working from here is financial indicators. Now, for those people just joining us really quickly, is that every once in a while, and when we're doing this economic series, we don't do it every season. I don't think we'll do this in January unless the economy is really weird. So every other season, we'll come in and we'll do a show on how to read the economy. And the whole purpose behind it is to have business owners capable of looking at what's going on and making better decisions, which is what we've been doing. This whole series is if the economy's here, this is what you do. And what I had promised over the last couple of weeks is we would do a show on where is the economy. And I'll close on that as well. So what we're doing here is we're taking a monthly report that comes out of the Federal Reserve of the United States. In this particular case, it is the Federal Reserve out of Dallas, and a much more conservative reserve bank. And when I say conservative in terms of economic models, which means I'm more trusting than not of it. All right, so what we're going to be talking about here are 4 things. We got the nominal exchange rates, okay, a rate at which the U.S. dollar is exchanged for a unit of currency from foreign countries. The CPI exchange rate, the price of household basket of goods and services of a group of countries relative to that of the U.S., expressed in the same currency. So what they're doing is comparing what's going on here with other places. And what we're working on here is getting a list of, for the most part, items that we can use as leading indicators, predictors. All right. Then we're going to be taking a look at the price received from the output produced in a group of countries relative to the U.S., okay? So in other words, we're going to go from consumption to production, and we're going to take inflation out of the picture so that we can compare. And then finally, the last one, CCI, which is a great indicator, and that is the animal spirits of the customer base and what do they suspect to do. And what you look here on the show notes is what you're going to see is you're going to see color-coded black, red, or green. Black means neutral. Hard to read right now, neutral. Red means not good. Green means good. Okay, so we start there. So let's look at the nominal exchange rate. The nominal exchange rate here is that it has been going down over time, and so it's kind of a sideways metric. In the advanced countries, you find that the exchange rates are pretty close to par, as opposed to in the emerging countries, they're not. And what that means is that, for example, we have resources that we use out of Australia. In fact, our marketing agency is out of Adelaide, and the rate of transaction, the rate that the Australian dollar gets for the U.S. dollar is really not good for the Australians. I know that when I was working out of Calgary, Alberta, what Canada was focusing on is an exchange rate of about 90%. In other words, above 90, Canada was pricing itself out of the market. Below 90, Canada wasn't getting its full worth. So here it is, we rated that as neutral. Okay? All right, real CPI, and we talked about the basket of goods. Let's look at CPI. And we evaluated the CPI as negative or bad for both the world and the United States, and that's what we've got here. Okay, so what you have is a process where this thing is kind of working sideways, but it's going in the wrong direction. So it's kind of incrementally getting worse. So in the advanced countries, again, the exchange rate is around 90%, and the exchange rate in emerging countries is more like about 110, which means you can do the inverse of what that means for the dollar versus their currency. So that is a negative. And now we go to the next one, is PPI exchange rates, okay? And so this one, the last one was more of a real-time metric. This one is much more of a future metric. And you've got the same thing here. The charts are looking the same, is that they have been basically getting a little bit better over time, but for the most part, we're back to where we were at the 2001 internet bubble 20 years ago. And so this is not going very good for the United States or for the world. But on the other hand, it was only down a little bit, so we felt like we'll give this a green rather than a black. And then that leaves us with the CCI. And the CCI is an interesting metric. It is the Consumer Confidence Index, which tells you basically what do customers think, because what they think will have a major impact on the decisions they make. Now, this one, 100, like on the PPI, I didn't explain that, I apologize. On this graph, 100 is the index number. In other words, another way of looking at it is if you got 100 on this, you're really at 0. So it's how much are you above or below 100. So we go back to the pandemic, we were at about 85 out of 100, which means really minus 15 in terms of consumer confidence. Consumer going, I'm worried about my job. I don't have a lot of money, and I'm not going to spend a damn thing. All right? And so when we shut down the world, part of this was there was no demand. Therefore, there was no reason to build anything. And so what a lot of companies did is they didn't make anything. They said, well, we'll just pull out of inventory what's there, and when we get down to 0, hopefully we'll be out of this. Well, what happened was when we come out of the pandemic, where do we go? We went to about 25 plus, 125 on the index. All right, so we went from 85 as a low to 125 as a high, with 100 being the reference point. Now, what's happening right now is it's beginning to drop off. However, at 115, 110, let's say 110, it is still positive. So we're going to call that positive, but the concern here is the trend on this line is down. Okay? So it's already gone from 125 to about 110. So that is a decrease over the last couple months of a significant amount. All right, so let's go back to our show notes. Of course, you're not looking at the charts I'm looking at. And I think what I'll do is I'll put the link on here when I close the show out. So if you want to come back and get the link and look at the Fed, please do. But let's go through here. So we basically have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 11 factors, all right? And we have one for the world and one for the U.S., so we'll make that 22. So let's see here. Out of 22, I'm going to do the math right now for you to give you a sense for how I look at the economy. So we got plus, so we got 1, 2, 2, 1, 2. Boom, 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 boom. See, you get to see me count on the air. All right. And so what we got here is we got slightly negative. So basically what we have is I look at all these factors. We have 10 negative, 7 neutral, 6 positive. And so that would speak to, if you put this together as kind of again, this is my way of doing it. You put those together and you say, okay, we are at the top of something or at the bottom of something, because it's a mixed feedback. And since we were coming out of an expansion based upon everybody going back to work out of COVID, that means is that we're probably at the top, which is what I've been saying for all season, that we're probably someplace still in expansion. However, the trending doesn't look good. And for everybody out there, the things that I would tell you to look for is look for inflation. The things to follow is CPI, PPI, and CCI, okay? PPI, CPI is Consumer Price Index. Keep your head attuned to that, number one. And that's a real-time metric. It tells you what's going on right now. PPI, and that's Producer Price Index, and that is a leading indicator, okay, because that's telling you what they're paying right now. So the price increase that they're paying, you haven't seen yet. You're not going to see it till later in your CPI. And then the last one is the CCI, and that is what's the consumer confidence, because the second the consumer perceives that it's done, it's over, and it's not time to buy and conserve your money, the whole thing is going to go down, because this is really due to what we call animal spirits. What people believe to be true, in many cases, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in economics. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm a member of the Austrian school, because a lot of the other schools of economics are all based upon the fact of a rational principles behind economic theory. And the Austrians are, yeah, there's some rationality in there, but it's pretty much an emotional decision. And I like it better because it fits the world I'm in. Now, at the bottom of the page, you got the mobile app. Let me say this. You want all of this, everything we have, everything we do, you want it at your fingertips. You want it in the palm of your hand. You want solutions on demand in the palm of your hand. Then download the app. Now, you can either go to our website, get the app, or you can go to Apple Store or Google Play, and you either ask for IBGR or Business Growth Radio, and you have everything we have. You want to listen to the show live, it's there. You want to listen to podcasts, it's there. You want to access the show notes, it's there. You want to search our database, it is there. You want to read our blogs. You want to operate in our community. I could go on and on and on. It's all here. All right? And so with that, you have yourself a great week. We're about to start the Tuesday day in Sydney, Australia. In fact, as a matter of fact, it's going to be Tuesday.